The masterclass I've been taking is from Joyce Carol Oates, and it's called The Art of the Short Story. Joyce Carol Oates is an American writer. She published her first book in 1963 and since has published 58 novels. I'm struggling to get my second one out. What a shame. 58 novels, a number of plays and novellas, and many volumes of short stories, poetry, and nonfiction. Talk about prolific. And she actually teaches writing at Princeton University, and the same syllabus she uses in that class she used in this masterclass. Here are a few of the takeaways that I've gotten from it thus far. The first one is that strong characters can generate the plot. And she goes on to mention, think of characters as hired actors that you're paying. If you don't need to use them, save your money and get rid of them. And it's true, like a lot of the advice and guidance that I've seen related to characters specifically within your writing is that each one has to serve a purpose. They should be there for a reason. If you just fill up a story with a bunch of background characters that don't do anything or that don't serve a particular purpose, you're running the risk of them just confusing the story and people either consciously or subconsciously just wondering, what is this person about? What are they doing? When are they going to come into the story? What are, what's their role? Like, what's going on with them? And that's an interesting way that she put it in terms of thinking of them as hired actors acting in the story that you wrote and that you have to waste money on. And if you really don't need them, you save your money. Something else I jotted down rings true to many, if not all, of the first draft related writing advice that I've come across, which is write them as fast as you can. Don't take more than a day. Even if it's very sketchy, don't edit. Once you have that first draft, you can spend weeks working on it, filling it in, changing things. And again, that's something that I don't stick to as much as I should. Sometimes I have, like me personally with my writing, I have days where I'll be working on a draft and I'll follow that advice, just get to the end of it, bleed onto the page, just spill it out and go back to it later. But then there are other times that I'm like editing as I go and second guessing and going back to what I wrote a couple days before and not making that forward progress that in retrospect I do recognize as being like a pitfall of one of the reasons why I haven't completed a specific work. Another good takeaway is that there are two ways of looking at writing. One is you're writing a story very transparently. And two, you're telling a story with language, and language is the point. And she went on, if I remember correctly, to give examples of that, like folks that they're writing where language is the point would be like a Ernest Hemingway. It's prose but reads kind of as poetry, the way he puts words together. And on the flip side, writing very transparently, she used the example of George Orwell, where his prose were very clean, direct and to the point. Here's a piece of advice I definitely have to implement if I want to get my shit together, or if I'm serious about it rather, which is constant interruptions, self-imposed or from others, is the greatest threat to our imaginations, our writing, our work, etc. Make time to be alone and write. Gotta schedule that shit in, gotta structure it in. And the last piece that I'm gonna share with you from this masterclass is a lot of best-selling novels, most, she says, are quickly paced. For example, Stephen King novels. And these use short declarative sentences. I think that's a piece of practical advice there. Again, as long as that lines up with your goal of what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish with your writing. That's definitely something to take away there. The use of short declarative sentences. And that, my friends, are some of the takeaways that I wanted to share with you fine folks from the masterclass of Joyce Carol Oates. And as always, I will link to the masterclass website in the episode notes in case you guys want to check it out yourselves.